Hello, Jen, and welcome. Thank you very much for making the time to have this chat with me.
Oh.
And we only met recently, didn't we? A few weeks ago.
Yeah.
And what we discovered was that we were both working with I am.
Yeah.
And so would you like to say a little bit about what that means to you? I know, like at the moment, there's this big thing about the I am presence. And I think for some people, I'm sure that my definition of it is maybe different to yours. So would you like to share a little bit about what that means to you?
Yes, I'd love to.
Great, thank you.
So my what I've learned about the I am has a lot of it has come from the Bible, and a lot of it's come from the teachings of Neville Goddard, from William Blake, from Joseph Murphy, like very, very, very deep esoteric teachers. And so what we learn from these amazing teachers, and particularly the Bible, is that the name of God in the Bible is I am. And I shall be known as I am. So that's really quite pertinent, and it's pointing us to a lot of information about what exactly the I am is. So if we go over to Neville Goddard's teachings, what we learn is that the I am presence is also called the Father, as referred to in Scripture. It's called the Father. And the Father consciousness represents the imagination. And so if you think about the word imagination, so if we break down the word imagination, the first three letters are I-M-A, which is an anagram of I am. So here there's another clue that is pointing us to what is the I am presence. And so what we learn is that we are all fractals of God's source energy. And what the Bible tells us is that God had to die in man so that man could be born as God. And that's what happens. So what we understand is that we are all fractals of God's source energy. And if you were wondering what God looks like, look in the mirror. You know, it's like we are all that. We're not God per se in quantity, because God, the creator, that which turns the seed of the acorn into the oak tree, that which keeps the stars in their place, that is the name of our creator. But we are all essences and fractals of that creative energy. And we are God personified. And so what we realize is that in sacred scripture, where we hear phrases such as "I and my Father are one," what that means is that in the imagination, that holds the perfect patterning of paradise consciousness. Within our imagination, we can go to paradise like that. Within our imagination, like, so say, for example, we're in a cell, we're locked in a cell, yeah, like a prison cell. In our imagination, we can be running along white sanded beaches, we could be hugging our beloved. And so what this teaches us is that our imagination is the perfect sort of like aspect of God consciousness. And so we all hold God consciousness within our imagination. And so our job in this lifetime is to sort of like awaken as man, sort of the egoic identity, man who has forgotten that he is a fractal of God. And our journey is to turn towards the creative power of our imagination to create the world that we want to live in. And so the imagination is the genie that lives within inside of us. And so, for example, like I manifest these all the time, like just like that. I can manifest anything because I have faith in the power of my imagination. And so just by seeing it in your imagination, Like, so say, for example, you wanted to manifest a red sports car. And so you visualize, you know, getting into the sports car, the nice smell of the seats, putting your foot on the accelerator, driving along the ocean coast. You visualize all that. And then what you are doing is you are petitioning all of the other subconscious minds in existence to coalesce in accordance with your intention, your vision as God consciousness, because we're gods. And so God creates. There's no higher force than God saying, oh, well, you've been a bit of a naughty boy recently, and no, you're not allowed to create that. No, it doesn't work like that. We hold the creative power within us. And so every time we visualize and intend for something to manifest as per seeing it within our imagination, then we are connecting with all of the other subconscious minds in the universe, and they are all going to start aligning with our intention. Awesome. And some way or another, that red sports car is going to happen. And it could be that you happen to have you bump into a random friend, you go for a coffee in a random cafe, and a friend comes in and says, oh, guess what, just been speaking to my mum, and she's just bought a new house, and she's got this red sports car and it no longer fits on her drive, and I'm really looking for someone who would want the red sports car. That is an example of how the power of our imagination works. So the I am presence is the perfect imagination. It is the Father consciousness, the God consciousness that resides within us, that we are here to grow into and embody and become one with, so that we know who we truly are.
Awesome. That's fabulous. So as you know, I'm an astrologer.
Oh, wow, cool.
I think when we met, we talked about the fact that the planetary nodal axis had moved into Aries.
Yes. Oh, yes, I remember that now. Yes.
Which the key phrase is I am.
What does that mean to you?
So Aries is very much the first sign of the zodiac, isn't it? It's the child. It's the, you know, when we first come into the world, and we are told who we are. We are told what sex we are. To start with, the first thing any baby will hear as soon as it's born is whether it's a boy or a girl, and then we're told our name, and then we're told endless things about ourselves, whether we're a good child or a bad child, or, you know, whatever, a creative child, or, you know, a clever child. We're taught so many things about I am. And one of the things that is so different to well, maybe there is a join here somewhere, but one of the things I've been looking at is how all these constructs that we've been given about who we are, I am, blah, 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 we've taken them on because we were giving them as small children. We've never considered whether they were real or not. It's very interesting at the moment that so many people are actually even asking, am I really this sex? You know, I mean, let's not go there, but it is being asked at the moment. And how my core value is freedom. And so I'm really looking at how these I am constructs actually prevent us from having an experience of freedom. But the interesting thing is that I'm also really into the imagination. You know, like you, I feel that as children, you know, up until about the age of 7, we didn't know the difference between our imaginal world and the real world. And since, you know, mainly through education, we've been given, no, you learn these facts. We're not really interested in your imagination anymore. I mean, I don't know if you've been to a primary school recently, but even the art is all reproductions of other artists. They're not actually being asked to use their own imaginations. And I feel that this is, like you said, is our creative genius. Our imagination is how we create, which is exactly what you were just talking about. But I was very interested in what you said about the I am being the father, because in the form of astrology that I use, the father is represented by the sun. And I've never really associated the sun with imagination. I've always associated imagination with Uranus and Neptune, you know, that ability to tap into the imaginal realm, you know, and move beyond our boundaries. I never really thought about it as the sun. So have you got any, so let's go back.
Yes. So yeah, I'd like to just say that the sun, the S-U-N is the father. Yeah, it is, because it's the creative power. It's the external creative power, because the mother is the womb of creation, the unseen. It's like the feminine genitalia is inside of us. The feminine is the moon energy. It's inside. It's in the darkness, shines in the dark. But the father energy is the phallus. It's the external organs. It's the sun, you know, and the sun is the creative power of our universe. Like, without sun, there's no life. Without sun, the acorn cannot become an oak tree, you know. And so the sun creates the physical blueprint, not necessarily the spiritual blueprint, which I think that is the domain of the mother. But I think that the father energy is the physical output, creative force.
Interesting. What's your sun sign?
I'm a Libra with Capricorn rising and Capricorn moon.
Okay, nice. So I'm a Pisces with Aquarius rising and a Cancer moon.
Okay.
So as a Libra, then the sun in Libra, so traditionally we would say that what you're wanting to create is harmony.
Yeah.
Does that figure quite strongly for you?
Yeah, definitely. I'm very, very much about service to others, and I've really had to learn about the I am. Like that hasn't come naturally for me, because obviously Aries is the I am, and I'm opposite. I'm Libra, and I'm all about partnership, and I'm all about service to others. And so my spiritual growth has involved me embodying the I am, the I Ram, and my mudra for that is I Ram, is that. And that really, really activates the Aries Ram energies when you work with that mudra. So I had to work a lot with that mudra to really, really come into balance with the Aries energy.
Yes, because you're right. In astrology, we're, you know, even though you're a sun in Libra, you're, as you say, Aries is opposite, and therefore there's always a bit of a mirror going on. There's always a balance needed between the Libra and the Aries, and it's the same for me. My opposite is Virgo. And to tell you the truth, you wouldn't believe how many Virgo friends I have. I seem to, you know, draw that Virgo energy to me because I need that balance. So going back, because what we were looking at was about the nodal axis moving into Aries. So what because you said, oh yeah. So what would you see as the significance, because we're going to be in Aries for 18 months, what would you say was the significance then for the planetary consciousness, what as humans that we need to be focusing on during this period?
But for me, like I definitely consider myself a spiritual leader within the Ascension movement. And so for myself, as soon as the North Node went into Aries, I got really super conscious of my I am presence and becoming one and embodying my I am presence. I also was able to heal my father wound, because I had a very deep father wound, because my father left my mother when she was pregnant. And so no matter all the work I did, I still had this kind of shadow over my consciousness, because I still had trauma around the fact that I never had a relationship with my father. So the moment that the North Node went into Aries, I healed my father wound instantly. And then as I healed my father wound, I was able to basically instantly manifest and become one with my I am presence. So what happens is, as spiritual leaders, as we embody and upgrade our own consciousness, because we're all one, essentially it's one God, those codes get then fed into the collective, and then it starts raising up the collective consciousness. Now, I won't be the only spiritual leader that is tuning into those codes. Like, we're dotted strategically all around the planet, and so there are many of us that and people that we don't know, they're just sitting in their little caves in the Himalayas, whatever, but on a vibrational level, they're upgrading their vibration and embodying and becoming one with their I am presence. Because prior to this North Node going into Aries, I knew about Neville's work, I knew about the I am presence, but it was like this suit that I hadn't quite grown into, and it was like my father's suit, and it just kept falling off of me because I hadn't sort of like grown enough to embody it. And so I think that what is happening is that we are the vanguards of the movement. And so as we get to experience this transformation and upgrade, that then gets fed. I mean, I have a really large like community that I'm connected to, so automatically they get these codes, and then they're all like, people that are drawn to my work are invariably like high level spiritual leaders, and so then they then absorb the codes and then they share them with their communities, and this is how it happens. And then also I think in the dream time, it will be, people will be having dreams, people will be having resolution experiences in their dreams. Like for my resolution was to heal my father wound, someone else it might be to heal their mother wound, someone else it might be to heal another wound. But somehow the momentum of the Aries and the North Node, also because it's the beginning of the zodiacal wheel, it's setting the precedent for the upcoming cycle as Taurus goes into the North Node, Gemini goes into the North Node.
No, it goes the other way around.
Oh, the other way around. Oh, does it really? So is it? So
yeah, it goes back.
Come out of Taurus.
Yeah.
So what did that mean then? What was happening when it was in Taurus then?
Well, that was, I mean, there's been a lot of talk, hasn't there? Because Taurus is very much about the earth, yeah, and our values and our financial systems and things. So, you know, there's been so much, hasn't there, about money, you know, becoming more digital and all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And there's also been, you know, a lot of work around regenerative farming practices.
Earthy
I think
kind of
as
stuff.
well, you know, over the past 18 months, you know, as people have come out of, you know, the last 3 years that we've been in, I think people's values have really changed. I think people are like, hey, hang on a minute, you know, I don't really believe that I need to work 10 hours a day anymore. I think actually it's important for me to have some me time. You know, you've heard about quiet quitters and things like that. So I think people's values have changed a lot. And you know, because we're coming, there's so many things going on, you know, we're going through this massive shift where we've been very much in earth and water signs with the outer planets, and we're shifting now into air and fire as Pluto moves into Aquarius, Uranus moves into Gemini, Neptune moves into Aries, Saturn will also be in Aries. So we've got this massive shift of everything going at the same time. And of course, with Pluto moving into Aquarius, it's like we're going through an evolutionary jump. We're making a big leap. And I think that, you know, that has to, the precursor of that has to be people looking at their values. You know, we have to, as a collective, look at, well, what is it we value? Do we just value more stuff? Or do we value community and, you know, and being together and love and play and joy and having fun? Or do we, you know, really value just, you know, working our butts off so that we can buy more stuff? And I think, you know, that's one of the things I think has been going on with the North Node in Taurus.
So what does the South Node represent?
That's sort of like where we're coming from. So the South Node was in Scorpio, and, you know, like how much shite has been uncovered, you know, all the Me Too movement, all the, you know, Black Lives Matter, all the finances, you know, what's going on at the moment in America with Trump, you know, all this stuff, all these secrets are coming up to the surface, and people are going, oh, that's what's been going on, you know, or, well, I suspected that. And so that's what the South Node brings up, everything that was hidden and unconscious, and brings it up more into the light. So now we've got Libra on our South Node, and you know, with astrology it can go in all sorts of different ways, you know, it can, and it may be that we're needing to look now at our relationships with each other, at our partnerships with each other, because we're not really very good at it. You know, a lot of people are experiencing. My sister has the radio on, and I was just listening to Jeremy Vine, and they were talking about, you know, women stuck in narcissistic relationships. And so I think it's about looking at our relationships with other people, but also possibly with the divine as well. And because in order to have that I am, to know who I am, we also need to know who we are in relation to other people, you know, where we meet in our partnerships with other people. But, you know, Libra is also about what we love, what gives us a sense of beauty, what gives us a sense of harmony, because it's ruled by Venus. So, you know, it could be very much about what is it that, you know, we really value, what is it that we really want to hang on to. Again, that sort of, because Taurus is ruled by Venus, so there could be a bit of a carry on there from that. So, but at the moment, we've had it for a little while now, particularly since the nodal axis moved into Aries, and it'll go on till November. We've got Pluto squaring. So if you think of got the nodal axis like this, Aries and Libra, Pluto is exactly at right angles. And so it's forming this triangle with the nodal axis. And so everything that's going on at the moment is going on within that context of Pluto squaring the nodal axis. And Pluto is not going to leave the compost heap unturned. It's like, what is going on in the bottom of that heap? And so it's really pushing us to look at what is going on under the surface and what needs to be revealed, because it's really hard to know who we are if we don't know what is our truth, if we don't know what is the truth, or where we sit within that whole paradigm that is going on. So yes, I'm particularly interested in the I am, in the sense that peeling away those layers of, well, for example, I was told as a child constantly, you're selfish. And so I grew up, I'm selfish. And I know, I look at it and I'm like, I'm not really selfish. But that has imprisoned me. That has stopped me from doing things, or it has channeled me in a certain direction, because that's what I believe about myself. So it has, in a way, imprisoned me. You know, I loved what you said about, you know, the imagination is never trapped, because one of the things, I'm doing a series of presentations at the moment about quantum reality. And, you know, one of the things that Nelson Mandela said is that, well, they can imprison me for 30 years, but they can never imprison my mind. That can go where it wants. And someone reminded me the other day of Anne Frank and her diary. And there was someone else who was basically imprisoned for years in a very small space. But because she had such a powerful imagination, she was actually able to live a very full life, even within those narrow confines. So I love that about the imagination. So if people want to follow you, where would they find you? Where's the best place to find you?
Best place is Facebook, really. You can like become a follower on Facebook or join my big group. The event is happening. I'll send you all my links and you can put whatever links you want. I mean, I've written 10 books now. I've recorded my album, Love Songs to God. That's just been released on Spotify. Highly recommend just looking up my name on Spotify, which is actually Jenny Mary McCarty, which is my full birth name. And yeah, you'd be welcome to join any of my communities. They're amazing spiritual communities.
Thank you. Well, I was thinking as well, you know, for anybody who's watching this interview, and yeah, so I'm an astrologer, and again, you can find me on Facebook, Deborah Maw, MAW, and I have a YouTube channel. One other thing occurred to me while you were talking earlier. So when you talk about the I am presence, and you talk about the Son and the Father, is that the same as that we are all divine beings? So a lot of people would say that we're all divine, that we all have a divine essence. Would you say that was the same sort of, that would be another way of saying what you mean?
I would say that we have a divine essence. I would say we are a divine essence, because saying we have it, it kind of like there's a little bit of separation there. Yeah, it's no separate. We are the divine presence. Like, if you want to know what God looks like, look in the mirror. You know, you want to know what God looks like in the human form, look in the mirror, because you are what God herself looks like, you know. So the way I see it is that God's source energy is just like a sort of like a blob of light, like a massive sort of like infinite ocean of light, like it's like an ocean, and we are droplets of that ocean. So we are God, not in quantity. We're not an ocean. We're a tiny little lake or a little river or something. Do you know what I mean? Or a little stream or whatever. But we're a drop of God. So that means that within our imagination, we house the mind of God. But most people, like the agenda of the old controllers has been to distract us away from knowing and embodying that truth by, you know, keeping the sort of like lower chakra stimulated. That's been the agenda. And you know, religion, like the falsity of religion and stuff like that, it's all been an agenda for us to not know who we truly are, and that we're all creative powerhouses, like we all are. But in order to create anything from the spiritual realms and bring it into the material realms, you need to have faith. You know, faith is the superpower of the universe. Faith is the cement that builds the spiritual structures onto the material structure plane. So faith, if you don't have faith, there is nothing will get built. Like you may as well just don't even bother, you know, because it's actually faith, because in the material realm, time moves slower. You know, there isn't really time in the spiritual realms. Everything's just instant. But here we have a seed. You don't, the minute you plant the seed, it doesn't give fruit. It takes a little moment for it to, you know, grow and take root and then be looked after and nurtured. And it's the same with our manifestations. It's like even when the seed's growing underground and you can't see it, you have to know who I remember who I am. I am a fractal of God's source energy. I am a droplet of God's source energy, and every single thing that I wish for and intend, if I direct that, it is so. Like there's no higher force than God. There's no like, and that's the thing. It's like becoming one with your I am presence is about growing up spiritually. And even myself, like a spiritual leader, like when I first had my sort of enlightenment in 1995, I woke up to the fact that I was a child of God. I knew that I am God as well, but I was very much in that consciousness of that I'm a child of the divine. But then but that's the first stage of the awakening out of secularism, out of the material sort of like indoctrination. You wake up and you realize, oh, God exists and I'm a child of God. But then you can't just stay a child. Like the child has to grow up and has to become the parent, you know, and that's been my evolutionary journey, because I woke up in 1995, but this year, 2004, I truly became the parent, and I became an embodiment of my I am presence. And Jesus, it took a long time. It did take a long time. And that was even at a very, very high level of consciousness. So, but I think the more one person is able to access that level of awakeness, then we just like kind of like feed those codes into the collective grid, and then everyone can start accessing that. Like now in my community, loads of people are going through this upgrade. People are writing to me all the time like, Jen, oh my God, I'm getting so transformed by your teachings about the I am presence. I'm really getting it. I'm sorting the wheat from the chaff, and I know who I am. So it's like, as one person really embodies that, it's such a contribution for the collective.
Yeah, you're right, because we are all one.
Because we're all one. Exactly. It's like the 100 monkey syndrome. So as one person embodies that, it's like that is a new sort of pattern that gets fed into the collective grid. And then everyone, you know, who is calibrated to that starts picking up that information and then starts up leveling their own vibration. And that is definitely happening.
Fabulous. And that's why it's on each of us responsibility to do what we can and to do no harm.
Of course. Absolutely, Deborah. Well, it's been lovely chatting to you.
And you. Thank you
Yeah.
so much, Jen. I really, really
Oh, you're
appreciate
welcome.
you.